Alright, so in this video I will be teaching you how to make a contact form with HTML and add it onto your website and actually have, when somebody fills that contact form out, actually have an email sent to your designated email. So we will be using the SendGrid API. SendGrid is a emailing platform or delivery service that is very efficient when it comes to sending emails. We'll actually navigate to my GitHub over here. And so as you can see, the first step is actually creating your SendGrid account. We'll open this up in a new tab. So yeah, the cool thing about SendGrid is it's scalable. So if you're just a small company and you need to add it to your website and you're not sending that many emails, they actually have a free trial where you can send up to 40,000 emails in a month, and then after that trial is ended, you get 100 free emails per day. And so you really don't have to be spending any money on the actual emails. So yeah, that's the first step. I already created an account. So step two, if once you log in and you've created your account, you'll actually create an API key, and I'll just log in real quick and show you how to do that. And so all you got to do is just hit create API key, name your API key, whatever, lorem ipsum. Oops, can't even spell lorem ipsum. And then you create and view it, of course, and you actually have to copy that API because it only shows you the API once. But yeah, I'm not going to actually create a new one because I already have one up right now. And so yeah, let's go back. Oop. Navigate back. And so yeah, step three. Finally, once you have that API key up, you're going to actually need that for a specific variable for the contact form. And so yeah, those are the prerequisites. The GitHub repository kind of explains it pretty well, so you can follow along from there as well. So let's actually get to start some coding. Let's open up Visual Studio Code over here, and as you see, I already have the SendGrid API library up or downloaded. You can download that from my GitHub repository. So yeah, all right. So the first thing we want to do is let's actually make our contact form. So we'll make our navigation bar first. So I'll make a folder called components, and I'll actually just copy and paste a bootstrap nav bar.php. So let's just copy this from over here. It's not, this video is more so about actually sending the email than like the styling and everything. I use Bootstrap. I really don't mess with many styling and CSS stuff like that. I usually take the shortcut with Bootstrap. So yeah. And so the next thing we want to do over here is we want to create an index file. That will be our contact form. And so the first thing we want to do, of course, is declare the doc type. So we'll do that. Call this contact form. And we're going to want to import our Bootstrap links. And so I actually have a file up. And I'll copy this and I will paste that. And so this is just some fonts, and these are the Bootstrap CSS library that makes everything look good. And I actually have some additional styling to add in my header, so we'll do that. And paste that. Oh, gotta close that style tag. All right. So now to First thing we have to do is import our navigation bar. So I'll add some comments, call this navigation bar, and we'll just do a PHP include. Dang it, I can't even code today. It is 4 a.m. right now. I'm pretty tired. Had nothing else to do but, code, so I just kind of wanted to share this video to the world because I've struggled enough and I want to save somebody that time of having to struggle and being able to complete whatever they're doing much quicker. So yeah, we just imported that navigation, and so we'll actually start our content. We'll make the content. This is our startup content, and so what we'll make is container. So div class container text center. That's a bootstrap class, CSS class. Close that div tag. And so next thing we want to do is make a title. So this is the title of the page, basically. And so actually I can just copy and paste this. Here we go. And so, this is the website. I just called it. I mean, this could be the name of your website, of course. This is just a simple contact form. And we'll make a spacer over here to give space between the actual form. Close that div tag. And all right, so now we want to start with the actual form itself. I can copy and paste that over here too. So in this form, you can see I have a name, I have the email address, I have the subject, and I have a message. So basically your basic email formatting. And so yeah, make sure you have your name set up so that the post variables can read that in the next file. And so as you can see, I'm using the post method, and we're going to send that to a page called sendemail.php. And let's actually add a comment at the bottom of this page to call this the end of the contents. All right, so yeah, that's our index file. Now we want to go over to the send email. We want to make the send email. And so this is the actual email file. So once a client or customer fills out that contact form on your website, this is the backend code needed to send that email. So we'll start with the PHP opening tags. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to require the SendGrid autoload file, and that basically is the brain of SendGrid, essentially, like the navigation for SendGrid. Without it, you can't actually send emails. And the next thing we want to do is require the API key, and we'll make that file in a little bit. And we'll have that in a file called API key, and then in a directory called API key, and then the file name will be called key.php. So close that. All right, so let's get our post variables. Here, let me enter a few times. All right, so right now we'll get our post variables from that contact form. And so if the submit button is set, call this post submit, essentially just verifying that they actually submitted the actual form. And so first thing we want to do is create the name, the client. And so this will be name. And so, I mean, the post variables don't have to be what I have. If you go back to this index file, it just has to be, matching with the names of the actual input itself. If some of you guys don't know how the HTML forms work. So yeah. So yeah, and the sender would be the actual person sending the email or filling out the contact form. So email. The subject. These are all things, like I said, that are in the actual contact form that is included. So you don't have to rewrite all of this. I will add. I actually do have a GitHub up right now. I will have a link in the description, so that can save you the time of actually having to make a file, making the HTML and all that. So the message. So yeah, so you see now we have the basic information. So we have the name of the client, we have their email, we have the subject, and we have the message. And so the next thing we want to do is make the recipient data. So if I'm a company, let's make sure I spelled recipient right. Yeah. And so the recipient in this case, we'll say my email, Solomon at askfavor.com. And the company, we are Favor. All right. And so now we actually have to get into the SendGrid data. We'll call this SendGrid email data. And so this deals with their classes, and this is actually the reason why we have to have the autoload file included. So the first thing we want to do is create a from variable, and that'll basically make a new email from the SendGrid email class. And so what this is, we take just the variable, the client name and the sender, so their email and their name. And so in that order, we have their name and we have their email. So client and sender. And then 2, it's going to be all the same thing. New SendGrid email class. And so we'll say this is our recipient data over here. And so we'll call this company, the company name, and then recipient. All right. And so that's we're going to have to add the actual content, of course. Can't forget the content. What's the email without the message, right? And so we'll say call the SendGrid class content. And we have to specify the type of content. So we'll say text/HTML, and then we'll include the actual message. All right. And so that's the basic data needed for SendGrid. And then so we're going to actually send that mail, send email. And so we'll create a variable called mail, and then import the SendGrid mail class. All right. And so this is, the basic structure of an email. So this will be your from. So who's it from? The subject of the email, and then the recipient and the content. So if you just break down the structure, you see how our variables contribute to the SendGrid email classes, and that actual message will contribute to the content class, and how it all comes together to create the email class with SendGrid. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to just create a SendGrid variable. We'll just call it SG. And so this is just a SendGrid class itself. And so this will include our API key, which we have to create the file for, and we'll do that in a little bit. All right. And so let's actually print out that response to the screen. So response is equal to SendGrid, passing that SendGrid variable, and then passing it all on to the client, actually mailing it, and we got to send it, of course. and make sure we post that in the header, and we'll pass along the mail variable so that it actually sends, and so that so we can see what it looks like on the screen to make sure that it actually sent, we'll add a print R, and we'll just say the response. Alrighty. So yeah, so this is the basic backend, data you need for sending the email with the contact form provided by SendGrid. The next thing we want to do, of course, is create the API key, or the API key directory, so that we can have the key file. So key.php, and so what we want to do is open it up with PHP tags, and we want to make sure that we can access this API key anywhere, so we'll call it globally API key. And I'll copy and paste this from another screen. Yeah, I'm not gonna show you guys my API key just for safety reasons or something like that, because I've actually been striked by SendGrid for accidentally publicly showing my email API, and so they striked my account and actually closed it for a few days. So we're gonna move this over here so I can add the API key in. But yeah, there will be clear instructions on the in the GitHub repository. So yeah, so we just added that API key. All right, so now we have our basic setup. We have the contact form with a little bit of styling. We do have the backend information to actually send the email. We have the SendGrid library that's required, and we have our API key saved in the API key directory. And so now we should actually be ready to send an email with SendGrid as if like somebody's on your website and filling out the contact form. So let's make sure everything's straight. All right. So what we want to do is we want to call localhost. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I spelled components wrong. Let's make sure that's right. Why did I spell components wrong? Silly me. The index file. Components. All right. Let's check it out. All right. So as you see, we have a basic setup. We have the nav bar. We have the title, and the reason for contact. So yeah. Let's fill out our basic information. So we'll do Solomon Antoine, and we'll use this my regular email, because I won't use my work email, because my work email is the SendGrid email. So we don't want to send email to ourselves, although you are able to send emails to yourself, but there's really no point to do that. So we'll call the subject tutorial. This is my first YouTube. Oh my gosh, I cannot spell it. Sorry guys. API video. All right, so we'll submit that. Oh, we got to debug something. Nice. Line 17, it said. On sent email. Company. Oh, yeah, I forgot a semicolon. Here we go. Save that. And we still have our data right now. We'll just submit that. All right, so now you can see we just actually sent the email successfully. And if I log in, so as you can see, we have the subject, we have the body, we even have the name over here. So yeah, that's sending that's essentially how you send an email with your contact form on your website. Uh, I saved you guys the time of actually having to, do the HTML. Uh, I mean, and I actually have the backend stuff for you as well. All you have to do is you're gonna have to fill in your API key over here. Make sure that's filled in. Make sure you have a SendGrid account and follow all the steps on the GitHub repository. So yeah, that's sending an email with PHP and SendGrid for your website's contact form. I will create a new video on Node.js and sending emails, and that should be out maybe 3 or 4 days after this video has been released. All right, guys, this is Solomon. Thank you for your time.